real. Joining me now is Virginia Congressman, Chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, Bob Goodlatte. Mr. Chairman, thanks so much for being with us. Respect the tie this St. Patrick's Day.
Top of the morning to you.
Yeah, okay. So you issued a statement last week saying that the Secret Service looks less like it is designed right now to protect the president and more like it's partying as if it's Animal House. Animal House.
It's an outrageous set of circumstances that have been going on for the past year now. We know about drunken partying on Secret Service assignments with the president overseas. We know about the fence jumper getting into the White House. And now you have someone who not only drinks and drives, a bad idea, but drinks and drives while headed back to the White House, at the White House, and then into an actual bomb crime scene investigation. This is very disappointing, and we have very high hopes for the new Secret Service Director, Jim Clancy. He's come back to the agency to try to solve these problems. I and John Conyers, the ranking Democrat on the committee, and Jason Chaffetz, the chairman of the Oversight Committee, and his ranking member, Elijah Cummings, will be meeting with Director Clancy this afternoon to talk about this and what measures they're taking to solve this problem. But clearly there's a serious morale problem and there's a serious discipline problem at this agency charged with some of the most important responsibilities, protecting the life of the president and other people around him.
Yeah, when you're going over the events of that evening, you left out the part where a senior supervisor let those agents go home without forcing him to take a sobriety test.
Absolutely good point. No breath test, and yet the report is that he smelled the alcohol on their breath, and therefore I don't think they're going to get away with this. But that again is an example of, protecting somebody's back rather than protecting the President of the United States.
Well, then let me read a statement. You mentioned Jason Chaffetz, chairman of the Oversight Committee. Let me read a statement from him and Elijah Cummings where they're talking about the implications here of what this all means. This incident also raises important questions about what additional steps should be taken to reform the agency and whether the problems at USSS, the Secret Service, run deeper than the recently replaced top tier of management, whether they run deeper than the management. Simply put, do you have confidence that Mr. Clancy's up to the job?
Well, we're going to find out. This is his first test of a serious problem since he was confirmed by the Senate as the new director. He was put in specific response to the fence jumping incident where the individual not only jumped the fence but actually got in the front door of the White House and into several rooms before he was apprehended. So the director has obviously a major challenge, and we're going to find out from him what his plans are. We're also working on legislative initiatives to make sure that the structure of this agency works properly. We still have a ways to go on that. We're gathering information, and one of the most important parts of that will be interviewing Director Clancy.
Gathering information. What's the first question you're going to ask him? Really, there are so many about that night.
The first question I'm going to ask him is what disciplinary action has been taken with regard to these two agents and their supervisor, because obviously it's a serious matter, and if you don't send the right message that this is not going to be tolerated, you're going to continue to see more of this.
Well, and in fact, isn't there supposed to be a zero-tolerance policy for just this type of incidents after everything that happened overseas with the drinking and whatnot?
We're going to find out.
So then what response then is appropriate? You're going to ask him what he's going to do. What would be the minimum response that would be acceptable to you?
Well, I want to hear from him what the standard has been and how it's being applied, but certainly it would include the possibility that these individuals would lose their jobs.
The part of it that I think is concerning to a lot of people is that this happened that night at the White House when the whole world is watching the Secret Service. I mean, if you had to list 3 of the things that Secret Service agents could not do in this current environment, they would be drink on the job, drive back to the White House potentially drinking, drive through a bomb scene investigation, and then be sent home without taking a sobriety test. I think those would top the list of things that would be scandalous in this environment right now, yet they did it anyway. So does that indicate there's a cultural problem here?
I think it does. And the second question for Director Clancy is, what is he doing to make sure that his agents understand in advance, not seeing somebody lose their job, but in advance know that if they go to a retirement party for one of their colleagues, that they shouldn't be drinking if they're going to be driving, number one, And number two, they definitely shouldn't be going back to the White House in that state. So does the director have a plan for making sure that when events like that occur, where presumably there are a lot of Secret Service agents at the event, that somebody is, the big brother who's going to make sure that people know that they can't do this kind of thing? I mean, this is common information that people who go out for a New Year's Eve celebration or on a Friday night or whatever know that they'd better have a contingency plan ahead of time to not drink and drive.
Chairman Bob Goodlatte, great to have you here with us on New Day. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you, John.
All right, Allison.